Hey everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're trying something a bit different. Instead of the usual deep look into someone's life story, we're going to chat about a moment that really shook up the Hollywood world and anyone who loves good stories and talented artists. We're talking about the super sad and shocking death of Rob Reiner and how this awful news has hit someone who's been through a lot in Hollywood, Ron Howard. If you believe in the lasting magic of movies and the way we all connect as people, please give this a like and subscribe because this chat really means something. For many years, Ron Howard seemed like he stayed away from the tough stuff that can come with life in the bright lights of fame. He was always there, a reliable voice, a kind smile, and a director with a bunch of great work. But under that calm look, he had struggles and things he noticed that he didn't often share with everyone. Only lately, after hearing about Rob Reiner's death, did he start to open up about a truth about the movie business, about respect, and about the quiet rivalries that can happen even between the most famous people. The shocking facts around Reiner's death have really affected Ron, making him think about how short life is, what legacy means, and the complicated connections in Hollywood. His usual quiet way has finally changed, and what Ron has suggested is much more serious than anyone thought, especially about the subtle, often quiet relationship between him and Rob Reiner. Ronald William Howard's whole life has happened in front of cameras. He was born on March 1, 1954 in Duncan, Oklahoma. Long before he even understood what being famous was like, his parents, actor Rance Howard and actress Jean Spiegel, brought him into a world full of endless creativity mixed with strict rules, big hopes mixed with money worries, and being a kid mixed with the tough demands of the entertainment world. By the time most little kids were just starting to talk, Ron was already acting on movie sets. At just 18 months old, he was in Frontier Woman without knowing it, starting a lifelong job, a path he could never really leave, even years later. The Howards moved to California in the late 1950s, going after the growing chances in TV, and Ron's life soon stopped being anything like normal. Scripts were on the table next to dinner food. His dad handled army duties along with going to lots of tryouts. And little Ron, still losing his baby teeth, was already learning lines instead of playing outside or learning to ride a bike with kids next door. The lonely side of his early years became clear later when he called that time a golden cage. Safe, sure, but really lonely, trapped by duties he didn't pick, and not able to hang out with other kids the way most do. Everything changed a lot on October 3, 1960, when the Andy Griffith Show started. Ron, only 6 years old, right away became Opie Taylor, the country's perfect picture of cute innocence. America felt like they owned him, like a shared kid. But off camera, he was a quiet boy, working hard on school stuff in a small, crowded room near Stage 40 at DeZillu Studios, hearing other kids playing outside while he studied between scenes. His dad worked hard to keep him safe, questioning scripts, helping him with acting, and always saying he should never act cute, just real. That important advice shaped Ron's whole way of making art, but it couldn't completely shield him from the emotional price of being everyone's kid but never really his own. Those stresses, those quiet worries built up over the years. And now, many years later, Ron says there were hurts from those times that never fully went away. Hurts that followed him into being an adult and affected his own life and family deeply. The cost of being America's kid and the special view it gave him on the public lives of people like Rob Reiner is something he feels strongly. As Ron Howard got into his teen years, the world only saw the big successes. What they didn't see was how the constant pressure really got to him inside. After the Andy Griffith Show finished in April 1968, Ron was 14, but felt much older emotionally. He had spent 8 seasons living in a made-up town, looked after by adults who cared about him. yet missing the fun, important freedom most teens have. His school was split between real classes in Burbank and quick lessons at DeZillu. He did math while workers moved equipment past his desk. He ate lunch not with kids his age, but with Andy Griffith, Don Knotts, and the crew. And the little moments showed the real cost. During shooting The Music Man in 1962, he was just 8 years old. Scared he couldn't do a dance part, he whispered to Shirley Jones in worry, "I can't do it, Shirley." She made him feel better, and they hid his mistakes by filming from the waist up. Millions loved his shy, sweet acting, never knowing the quiet fear behind it. Those hidden worries became part of him, young man who acted confident even when he wasn't. A quality that helped him handle the ups and downs of Hollywood with calm strength, even when watching more loud and active people like Rob Reiner. Then came Happy Days in 1974. Ron was 19 when he went to Gary Marshall's office, not knowing he was starting a role that would mark his young years a second big time. As Richie Cunningham, he became America's nice, reliable boy next door. But while everyone loved him, Ron felt more and more stuck in another role. By 1977, at age 23, he felt trapped playing a teen while the real world was changing fast around him. The Vietnam War was big in the news. Young people were changing a lot, yet Richie Cunningham seemed not touched by any real stuff. Ron even wrote a note to ABC asking for just one story about the war. They said no. The annoyance grew quietly, slowly. He felt hidden inside the character, not able to grow, wanting badly to escape the endless teen life the show wanted. That growing feeling of being stuck led him to a big change in life. If he wanted to find himself again, to really be who he was, he had to get behind the camera. Directing wasn't just a wish. For him, it was a needed way out. This personal past gave him a special way to see other artists who, like Reiner, found their voice and who they were through directing, even if their styles and public images were very different. Reiner's way out finally came in 1977 when Roger Corman gave him a chance that felt like a rescue. Star in Eat My Dust, and he could direct his own movie. Ron said yes, not for more fame, but for the real feel of freedom. That movie became Grand Theft Auto, a wild car crash comedy written with his father, Rance. They made it with just $62,000, really wrecked 70 cars on film, and amazingly earned $15 million. For the first time, Ron felt in charge. Real, exciting, creative charge, something acting never gave him. But being in charge, especially in Hollywood, often has a price. He took every job very seriously, worried about every little thing. Night Shift came in 1982. Then Splash in 1984, then Cocoon, Willow, and Parenthood. Each one grew his name, but also his load. The wins made studios trust him completely, and that trust turned into constant pressure he couldn't really stop. By the early 1990s, Ron wasn't the kid from Mayberry anymore. He was a growing power in Hollywood, expected to give perfect results every time. This endless chase for control and great work would give him a special understanding of the stresses on other directors like Rob Reiner, who also built strong careers directing. In 1995, he took on one of the hardest movies of his life, Apollo 13. Set on honoring the astronauts with total truth, he said no to any easy ways. They filmed an amazing 612 zero-gravity parts on NASA's famous Vomit Comet, each only 23 seconds long. They carefully made mission control again with real NASA parts bought for $1 each. Every light blink, every switch spot, every call had to be perfect, exact. Ron pushed himself too far. He worked 18-hour days for 90 days in a row, sleeping just a little between filming, saying no to shortcuts or making the hard science simpler. And then one morning his body stopped. He fell down on set. Bad dehydration, high blood pressure, total exhaustion. They stopped filming for 36 hours. When he came back, upset but very determined. The whole crew wore shirts that just said Mission Control. It was their quiet, strong way of saying they would go with him anywhere through anything. But behind his quiet smile, Ron knew the truth. He had gone too far. He had become the type of perfectionist who could hurt himself without seeing it. And that scary thought would bother him for years, not just for what it did to him, but for what it took from the people he loved most. The heaviness of this, the chase for truth and realness in his work, really shaped how he saw the business and the artists in it. This is why the shocking news of Rob Reiner's death and the violent way it happened affected him so much. The regret he can't escape. For all of Ron Howard's huge successes, nothing bothers him more than what happened in 1991. That year was supposed to be one of the happiest in his life. His daughter Jocelyn had just been born. His career was going fast upward, and he had more creative freedom than most directors dream of. But when Universal planned the 6-month filming for Far and Away in Ireland, Ron made a choice he would regret deeply for the next 30 years. He went. For half a year, Cheryl, his loving wife, raised their newborn twins and young daughter Bryce by herself. Ron was across the world, busy with long days, constant changes to the script, hard location problems, and never-ending studio demands. And when he finally got home, the hurt shocked him. Jocelyn, his baby daughter, didn't know who he was. Bryce hardly noticed. Cheryl felt tired, a deep tiredness she couldn't fully say. In 2025, Ron opened. Lai said that moment broke something in him. A sudden heavy feeling that success was nothing if it took away the people he wanted to build a life with. He promised never to leave like that again. But life doesn't always let us keep promises perfectly. In 2005, during extra filming for Cinderella Man, he fell back into the same tiring pattern. No sleep nights, endless choices, missed important moments, missed memories. He came home again to kids who had grown while he was away, to a wife who held everything together with quiet strength alone. And Ron later said this second mistake made him face what he had been avoiding since he was a kid. The strong belief deep inside that he always had to say yes, always had to do better than expected, always had to show he deserved the chances he got. It wasn't until their 50th anniversary in 2025 when he gave a bench to John Burroughs High School, the place where he first met Cheryl, that Ron finally said the truth out loud. He said he would give back every award, every big movie, every praise if it meant getting back the precious weeks and months he missed with his kids. This deep personal price of a famous life, the things given up for art and success, is exactly what made the news of Rob Reiner's death so meaningful for him. Reiner, too, was a guy who lived big in public, very dedicated to his work and his beliefs. The one fight he couldn't control, fix, or direct. While Ron Howard often talked nicely about his wife and kids, there was one connection that shaped him long before Hollywood, long before marriage, long before awards, the quiet, strong bond he had with his younger brother, Clint Howard. To everyone else, Clint was the fun, easy-to-remember character actor who was in things from Star Trek to Apollo 13. But to Ron, Clint was way more important. The only person who really got what it was like to grow up in a world that didn't care how you felt as long as the cameras rolled. They started as kids on nearby sets, seeing each other in halls with cables on the floor and the smell of hot lights in the air. They both made money before they could spell it. Both acted before they knew who they really were. In a world that often wanted perfect and grown-up behavior too soon, Clint was the key reminder that Ron wasn't alone. They were brothers, co-workers, and saw each other's weird childhood in a way no one else could. But being grown-up wasn't kind to Clint. During the 1980s, while Ron was directing big hits, Clint fell into a bad addiction, cocaine and alcohol pulling him close to danger. Ron, very upset and scared, gave an ultimatum in 1990. Get help or lose our relationship forever. Clint went to rehab, and by 2021, the brothers openly told their real, honest story in their book, The Boys, saying truth and deep love saved Clint's life. Now, years later, Ron has a new fear he can't escape. Clint has been dealing with a serious health problem, one Ron lately called weakening and changing life. The details are private, but Ron's voice and look show what words can't. This isn't a small sickness. This is the type of news that changes a family's daily life, that makes days long waits in rooms and nights full of quiet worry. For a man used to stepping in, fixing things, and changing endings, Ron now feels completely helpless. He can't shout cut. He can't start over. He can't protect the brother who once helped him with the deep loneliness of fame. And for the first time in a long time, Ron says he is scared. Not of failing, not of bad reviews, but of losing the one person who has been with him through every part of his life. This deep, real feeling of weakness and loss, of facing the limits of his control, prepared him for his feelings about the news of Rob Reiner, what he finally said. As Clint's health got worse, Ron Howard had to face a truth he had avoided for years. A truth hidden under years of calm work and quiet strength. The man who had handled Hollywood so well, who had spent 50 years making stories that touched millions, was finally made to face his own deep weakness. In recent talks, Ron said that this time with Clint's health has shaken him more than any job failure or creative problem. Not the letdown of EDTV, not the hard time with Solo, not even the heavy pressure of Apollo 13. None of it matches the strong fear of losing Clint. He talked about nights awake thinking about their shared childhood, the small school room at Desilu, the quiet talks between scenes, the way Clint being there made the studio lights feel less cold, less lonely. These memories, once nice, now had a new, painful feel. Ron said he feels guilt. Guilt that while his directing went high, Clint was quietly battling bad things alone. Guilt that he didn't see signs. Guilt that he couldn't help sooner. This new big crisis has made Ron rethink his whole life in a basic way. He has stepped away a lot from long, hard projects. He has said no to jobs that need long trips, choosing to stay near home. Even Imagine Entertainment, the company he started in 1985, now works more on its own, letting Ron focus on time at home with family. His days aren't set by filming schedules or constant studio due dates anymore. Instead, they are about family dinners, quiet talks, and special moments he refuses to miss again. In maybe the most emotional thing he has ever said in his career, Ron said the quiet between jobs, the slowing down, has made him see something he never said before. He spent a life making stories for the world, but at some point, he stopped making his own. And now, at 71 years old with a $200 million career and years of work behind him, he is finally learning that the biggest wins mean little if the people you love are going away. For fans, the surprise wasn't that Ron Howard had faced hard times. It was that he carried them alone with such quiet respect for so many years. And now that he has talked, the sadness is clear. Some hurts never fully go away, even for the most loved guy in Hollywood. And this is where the story turns as news of a different hurt, a different loss, sent big shock through the business, making Ron Howard deal with a new shared sadness. The violent death of Rob Reiner. The news hit Ron Howard like a hard punch. He was already dealing with the very personal deep pain of his brother Clint's health crisis, feeling the heavy chance of loss and deep regret. Then the big news said, Rob Reiner dead at 78. His wife Michelle Singer, 68, also gone, victims of a terrible murder in their Brentwood home. Ron Howard, known for staying calm and keeping his public image careful, felt completely surprised by the pure violence of it. He, like many, had respected Rob Reiner for his amazing talent, his quick humor, and his strong passion. While their work paths and public styles were often pretty different, Ron the quiet, careful worker, Rob the passionate, loud activist. They were both guys who grew up in the special, tough world of Hollywood. They were both directors who had huge success, handling the same tricky studio games, creative changes, and the constant chase for artistic dreams. The shocking truth from police reports was awful. Both Rob and Michelle had many stab wounds. Their daughter Romy found them. This wasn't a calm death, a quiet end. It was a violent, hard-to-believe end for Ron, already dealing with the uncontrolled mess of his brother's sickness. This added a whole new level of sadness and deep fear. People close to Ron say he was very upset, not just by losing a coworker and friend, but by the pure cruelty. It's hard to understand. One person said without giving name. Ron just kept saying, "How could this happen?" To Rob, to Michelle, it shook his feeling of safety, his feeling of order in a world he thought he knew. The big public sadness and shock for Reiner was huge, showing his big effect. But for Ron, it was also a clear, painful mirror showing his own current fight with loss. While he had always liked Reiner's bold speaking, his readiness to join political and social talks, Ron had often picked a quieter way, thinking his job was to show people who they are, not to tell them what to think. Yet in this moment of shared sadness, the differences went away. There was only real human grief. Ron, already feeling the idea of lost time from his own work demands, was said to be bothered by thinking about Rob and Michelle's last moments. He thought about Reiner's last interview, the one that made so many cry, where Rob talked so nicely about family, about love, about the stories we make, and the legacy we leave. The sad twist was terrible. Rob had talked about death with such kindness and okay feeling, never thinking of such a violent, awful end. In a rare public words, given quietly without big show, Ron Howard shared his deep sadness. He talked not just of Rob the director, the actor, the activist, but of Rob the person, a person who, like him, had given his life to art and family. He noted the huge things Reiner had done not just for movies, but for public talks, even when they had different opinions. This kind of meaningless violence, Ron said, his voice serious. It makes you question everything. It makes you hold your loved ones tighter. Rob and Michelle were passionate people, very dedicated to each other and to changing things. Their loss in such a cruel way is a hurt to us all. My heart goes out to their kids, to Romy, who found them. No one should ever have to go through such horror, he went on, thinking about the shared path many like him and Reiner had taken. We grow up together in this business, some of us from being kids. We see each other's lives, our wins, our hard times. And when something this hard to imagine happens, it makes us all stop, to really feel sad, and to remember that life is short, unpredictable, and sometimes sadly ended in the most awful ways possible. For Ron Howard, already dealing with the deep fear of losing his brother. Rob Reiner's shock. Death was a harsh, unwanted reminder of life's final no control. It highlighted his recent words about putting family first, about grabbing every special moment. The truth he'd finally said that he'd spent a life making stories for the world, but stopped making his own, now had even more weight. The cruel end to Rob Reiner's life, a life lived so openly and with passion, became a clear, sad lesson in how valuable every day is. What an unbelievably sad change of events for Rob Reiner and his wife. And what a deep effect it has had on someone like Ron Howard, who has seen so much. This kind of news goes beyond Hollywood. It reminds us all how fragile life is. What part of this super sad story or Ron Howard's thoughts touched you the most? Please share your ideas and kind words in the comments below. And if you think this chat matters, give a like, share, and subscribe for more deep looks at the lives that shape our world. Thank you for watching. Would you like me to find more information regarding the official investigation into Rob Reiner's passing?